Okay, first tool you're going to need is a tool that actually came with the locomotive, and that is the lid of the box. Now, what you're going to do, you're going to take the front pilot, you're going to put it on the lip of the box. You're going to notice that the locomotive on the back is resting on the back pilot right there. Now, with your thumb here, you're going to gently tap it on the table until you see it drop in. From there, you're going to gently lift off, and just like that, the shell is off. This is a completely safe method. Just be gentle, you'll be totally fine. With the shell off, our next task is to get the two halves of the frame apart. You can see them right here, one here and one here. These halves are held together by count them, 4 things. You've got your 2 Phillips head screws here. You've got the fuel tank, which holds them together down there. You've got the friction of the lighting board, yes, that does count. And then you've also got the motor cradle tabs, which hold it together from both sides. I like to remove them in this order, starting with the screws. You want to take the screws out first because you've still got the other 3 things holding the whole piece together. And that's good because you don't want to lose track of too many parts at once. When you take the screws out, you're just gonna give it a little tap. You'll notice that 2 little nuts, 2 little plastic nuts, if you're lucky at least, will pop down. There we go. They look like this. These 2 little plastic nuts are what these screws screw into. You do not want to lose those. Grab your box, the top of your box that is, put all the small little parts that you take out in there. Yes, this is a crucial step because if you don't, the screws and all the other little parts will get lost on the floor and you will never see them again. Next, take the fuel tank off. This is just a little plastic slide-on deal. Take that off. And then what you're going to do, you're going to find a pointy object. I'm going to grab a file here. The head of a screwdriver would also work, but something with a fairly fine point. And you're going to take that tab, push it up. Oh, maybe not up. Just push it in. Push it in. Push them in just a little bit. Get them started. And then you should be able to gently pry things apart. If it's not going, that means that the tabs aren't given away yet, and that's okay. Just got to come back in, push them down, just like that. Now what you'll notice, the trucks are going to drop out at this point. That is okay, that is normal. If you push on the tab, let me show you how I did that. If you push on the tab directly with this while the screws are apart, it's probably going to come apart. And using a little force here is not a bad thing at all. Sometimes it's just what it takes. So now, you might be in a predicament here where you've got the drivetrain on one side, the motor held in on the other side, and you're going, I don't know what to do. Don't panic, it's gonna be okay. What I would recommend at this point is to do the same thing that you did on this side. Just push in with gentle, even pressure. Gentle, even pressure on all 4. There are 4 of those little pins on each side. And that way, you should have the motor cradle just kind of rest back on the opposite side. Help it out a little bit. Lift off this piece first. Take note, you've got spacers and screws right here. I'm going to recommend that, well, actually, go ahead and leave. If it wants to stay in, go ahead and leave it in. It's less work for you later. There you go. And then you've got your drivetrain over here. We're going to take the lighting board off. Note where the contact strips are for your motor contacts. And note the 2 contacts from the motor that rise up to meet those. You've got your whole drivetrain right here, and this comes apart in a couple pieces. I would recommend a nice pair of tweezers for this, but you can, of course, use your fingers if you don't have those available to you. Now, this comes apart in a number of different pieces. You've got the worm gears on either side, and remember, these are going to be a little bit more on the temperamental side to get out, but they will pop out. This is connected to a universal joint and a little drive shaft right here. The drive shaft, I would recommend holding it with your fingers for this point. Pops off. It's just a little pop fit right there. And then you've got the worm gear assembly. Now, that's going to come off. This bracket on this side is not really going to come off, and that's okay. Sometimes there's a little washer here, a little plastic washer right here on this side. Not always, and in this case, there is not one there. So, what do you do with small parts? You put them in your tray for safekeeping later. Put that little U-joint in there too. Same thing on the opposite side. Flip it around. Always make sure that you've got some good grip on your work surface. Pull that out, set it aside, and you are left with your motor. Set that aside. Okay, that is how you disassemble the main portion of the frame. Let's talk about truck sets here. Most Atlas truck sets are the same, and these are pretty typical. You've got four little tabs right here that are holding things in place. So grab your little pinpoint. See that little tab right there? We're just gonna push in gently. Gentle pressure, folks, gentle. Push in right there. And once you've got one of them, you should be able to kind of just prise here with your fingers, pushing up from the back on the wheels themselves, and you should start to feel the clips give way a little bit. As soon as you've got that, take note of any small things popping out. There's a small little gear there. What do we do with our parts? You put them in the parts tray. Flipping it over. As soon as you've got this part off, the trucks are going to start coming apart, and that's okay, because that's what we want. You're taking these out bit by bit. You can remove these wheel sets. For proper cleaning, this is necessary. Just pull them out. They're a friction fit, or they're a clip fit, I should say. And you pull them out one by one, just like that. If you look at the main assembly of the trucks, you're going to see some gears that aren't necessarily going to want to pop out super easily. But if you'll notice here, we actually did have one of them pop out right here. And this one goes right back in here, kind of the telltale sign here. If you look, you can see the little holes, little indentations, and that is for those little gears to sit inside of. So you can take apart this whole truck if you really need to, and for some really, really deep cleaning if you need it, that is what is recommended. However, please take note carefully. Look at how the gears are arranged. Look at how they need to go back. Let's reassemble. We're going to start at the smallest piece, which is this little gear that needs to go back right there. Do you see that empty hole right there? That's where we're going to put it. Okay. So you just slip that in there. All the gears go on the same side, folks. This is going to take me just a little bit here because I'm trying to watch what I'm doing on camera, and I'm trying to do it in real life at the same time. Hopefully you'll have an easier time doing this. There we go. Just try to keep it straight. You'll know that you've done it right when you see those gears meshing. Now, not all of the gears are going to mesh without the wheels in there. The wheels are an essential part of the drivetrain, so don't you worry about that. Speaking of wheels, let's get the wheels put back. Remember, all the gears are on the same side. If you put the gears backward, they're not going to mesh with the rest of the drivetrain, and that's not going to help you at all. Put them back, 1, 2, and we need 3. There we go, folks. So they're just snapping right there. You'll know you've done it right when you can spin this top gear and all 3 of the other gear and all 3 of the wheels will move in the same direction. You want to keep any lint out of there as much as you can. Remember, this isn't a cleaning video, folks. This is just showing you how to disassemble it. Okay, next thing, our contact strips. The contact strips right here, there are 2 little holes, or there are 2 little pegs right here, 2 little holes that fit into those pegs, and those are our aligning holes right there. So what you want to do is you want to align the hole, and if it's not lining up, that means that it's not the right side. So flip it over. These are side specific, and you'll see this right here. When the alignment hole, or when the alignment peg is right there and right there, when it's right, everything just lines up. The actual axles fit into this little pocket right here, all the way down. Well, now keeping that pressed in there, because remember, it's only friction that's holding it. You're going to grab this guy, the other contact strip that is, and you're going to gently place it in there so that it's lined up correctly. We're almost there. There we go. And remember, keep those fingers on it, folks, because if you let up, it's all going to fall apart. Now, grab the bottom piece of the truck. We are going to very, very carefully and very gently set things down in there. We're just going to press it all together. Those clips that we loosened before are going to be our guiding light here. So once you've got all that there, you can see that the drivetrain, all the gearing is lined up with the holes. And just press. You'll hear some clicking. You'll see some stuff working. And now you can see that it's not totally pressed together. We only heard 2 clicks. We're waiting for the other ones. Oh, hang on, I think we might actually have it. Okay, next thing you want to check, are the wheels spinning freely? Can you roll it on a table? See, it's not spinning freely. That means that something isn't seated correctly. So things weren't fitting quite correctly. Things weren't rolling super smoothly. So I took things apart. I flipped the wheel sets around because it's entirely possible that I didn't put them back exactly the same way that they were. And we're going to try again. Oh, okay. Here's a problem that you might run into. If you don't have things seated correctly, when you try to push things in, they're going to fall apart. So we're going to take that back out. We're going to realign it just real quick. You get pretty fast at this once you've done it a couple times. And then we're going to bring it back into frame and gently push things together. It should be a pretty easy fit. And things should pretty well snap into place. Ah, and there we go. Free rolling. That's exactly what we're looking for. Now we're going to set our trucks to the side. They're relatively well assembled, so we're going to just go ahead and set them out of frame. Now we're going to start dealing with the small stuff. So this side of the frame that has the little copper contacts right here, they've got the little spring action to them. We're going to set that to the side. We're not worried about this one just yet. The side that you are looking for is the side that has these guys, the side that holds, rather, the assembly for the worm gears. Now, again, I want to mention that cake of old grease, you know, while we're here, it's going to bug me if I don't do it. Grab something to wipe that off. You don't need that. That's not doing you any favors. Just wipe it off real quick. There you go. It's gone. And we're all better for it. So, the way I would recommend doing this, find your motor first. And here's what you want to make sure of. You want to make sure that these motor contacts, these 2 little copper strips, or the brass strips rather, are aligned with the cutout in the frame. And you're going to use those little clips that were causing us trouble earlier to your advantage. Just snap those in. Nice and easy. Once those are in, we can focus back on the worm gears. So, this has a little hexagonal bit to it, which fits inside the flywheel. It might take a minute for it to be seated, but you'll see right there. Good to go. And now what you're going to do is you're just going to fit these right in there. I'm going to punch in for just a second. So if you look right here, oops. If you look right here, you'll see that these little bushings right here are held in place by the little cast-in pieces right there. And now if we rotate the flywheel, you'll see everything fits together just as it should. Okay, we're going to rinse and repeat on the exact same side. Please understand, folks, rinse does not mean rinse the model with water. You should never, under any circumstances, do that with any electronic component. I understand that was probably understood, but I'm saying it anyway. All right. Find that right there. Push it down in. Make sure you're seated. Give it a little spin. We're looking good. Next step is what I call completing the sandwich. You will need the other half of the truck side frame, or excuse me, not the truck side frame, but the frame for the whole unit. We're going to set that there. The other very important thing that you will need is the board. If you have the stock DC version, as I have here, it'll be the light board. If you have a DCC version, there may be a DCC board that goes here. Here's the most important part. these little these little contacts right here have to line up with these contacts right here. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to find where those align, and you're going to seat the board into that half of the frame ever so gently, just like that. Now, very important, you're going to look in here. You're going to double check. Are they making contact? Are your motor contacts making contact with the side of the frame? If it's DCC, that's not okay. You need to put some Kapton tape there. If it's DC, you'll be fine. We're not worried about it. So we're going to reseat that now that I've unseated it. Come on. It's a little temperamental, but you'll get it. There you go. Okay, they're seated. We're good with that. Now we're going to take the other half and we're going to set it on top and get things set in place. Now I know what you're thinking. Cole, aren't you forgetting the wheel sets? No, I'm not. Because if we put them in now, there's no way that they're going to stay in. Okay, applying gentle pressure, just letting things find their way together. Now then, that motor frame, or the motor cradle rather, is going to help us out here because it's holding all of our stuff together, but not super firmly, so that we can set our trucks in place. Here is how you know that they're facing the right direction. See these little tabs right here? These point inward. It doesn't necessarily matter which truck you put on which side as long as they are facing the correct direction. Now, here's what you're going to do. You're going to just gently press these into place, and these, the motor cradle, remember, it's helping us out here. It's keeping it in just enough registration to hold the truck in there while also keeping it pliable enough to not keep us from sliding it in just like that. Okay, you're going to want to keep the whole assembly inverted at this point. Keep it upside down, or at least keep some pressure on it. Now, I bet you're thinking, oh, we can just screw that back together. No, 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 no. We have to find our little nuts, and we have to put those back in place. I always like working with tweezers. Pair of tweezers is a modeler's best friend, or a good, usually tweezers come in a set of 4. Find a good set of 4 if you haven't already. Turn it over. With your finger on the nut back there, you're going to get your screwdriver. And you're going to gently twist it together. Not all the way, just enough to grab onto it. There you go. Head over to the other side. Now, if your trucks fall out during this phase, that's okay. Just pause what you're doing. Be gentle. Put your finger there. Grab your screwdriver. Screw it together just a little bit. Remember, you don't need to go too crazy here. Okay. Here's what we're going to see. This truck is stiffer than this truck. We don't want that. We want them to be the same level of, oh, and hang on a second. Just from turning it upside down, our contact strips right here, examine those. This is now just as loose as this one. So what we're going to do, we're going to go back to these screws, and we're going to tighten this now. Just a little bit, till we find the happy medium between a secure frame and trucks that are moving just the right amount. You don't want them too loose, you don't want them too tight. If they're too tight, they're not going to go around corners very well. You're going to be jumping the tracks left and right. If they are too loose, the trucks may have a tendency to fall out. This frame is in pretty good shape because I've got them tightened almost all the way down, and the trucks are still loose. On some other models, this is not the case. But there you have it. Last couple things. Find your fuel tank, slip it on top. This only goes on one way. If it doesn't go on super easily, flip it around. Here, you know what? Just for the sake of the video, we'll show you. If it's not slipping on easily, it's the wrong way. Flip it around. Slip that back on. And finally, the moment you've all been waiting for. Double check your contact strips, make sure everything's good to go. Find that frame, or excuse me, find the shell. Gently press it back together. There you have it. Always important, folks. Prove it to yourself that you did not screw everything up. Give it a little test. There we go.